There you have it. Yuri on Ice has made history today. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have made that joke. Yes, Yuri on Ice, the production committee has made an official announcement stating that Ice Adolescence is canceled. The movie for the series has been canceled at this point. The official statement is, thank you very much for always supporting Yuri on Ice. Regarding the postponed release of Yuri on Ice, the movie, Ice Adolescence, we have come to the decision to unfortunately cancel its production. We deeply apologize for not being able to meet the expectation of all of those who have been waiting and continue to support us throughout these years. The production committee and staff have been in constant discussions to create and deliver the movie, but due to various circumstances, there's that phrasing. I hate that phrasing, and it's coming back. We have had to make the difficult decision to stop the production. We sincerely apologize to everyone who has been anticipating its release, and thank you once again for your continued support. Key thing here, signed Yuri on Ice Project and MAPPA Company Ltd. I think this is one of those unfortunate things with this announcement is that all I'm seeing in the replies is, how dare you, MAPPA? MAPPA, I hate you, MAPPA. How dare you? You're so bad. And it's to be expected. I know that MAPPA is a really easy beating post. People love beating on MAPPA. And yes, technically MAPPA's name's right on there. But it is important for people to remember that Yuri on Ice is not MAPPA's property. They don't own Yuri on Ice. There is a production committee. Yes, MAPPA's on that production committee, but they're really low on the totem pole. There's Avex Pictures, there is TV Asahi, there's Dentsu, there's CIC, there's Cygames, there's TV Asahi Music, there's Movic, and then MAPPA on the very bottom. With these production committees, specifically Yuri on Ice Committee, there is a pool of people that are funding the project, and MAPPA at the time was a very small studio in compared to a lot of other studios. It hadn't made its breakout yet. This was partially why it got recognition. And so MAPPA probably owned like a very small amount of it. And I think that's probably where I'm going to start gaining my speculations beyond this point. So you got the facts. Yuri on Ice has been cut down. You have the facts that it's got a production committee and that production committee owns it. And this was a joint decision. This is not just MAPPA. I know that people love hating MAPPA. I'm going to get into why I think it still might be possibly MAPPA's decision in a way, but that's the facts. From here on, this is my thought process around when I seen this announcement. Like I said before, this isn't a shock to me. And I know that's a hard thing to kind of swallow for a lot of people. Why would you expect something like this to happen? Well, at the time that Yuri on Ice was made, way back here, MAPPA was not a big studio. I know I'm already bringing up MAPPA. Just stick with me here. Way back here, when we had MAPPA was building up, they did TQs, they did Terror and Resonance, they did Rage of Bahamut, they did Punchline, they did Ushio and Tora. All fantastic series, in my opinion. But these aren't breakouts. These did not get MAPPA a lot of recognition. They did Garo, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, they get two projects. And I know that people always forget the other project here, but stick with me. They get two big projects. They get a film, which is In This Corner of the World, and Yuri on Ice. And these were both kind of released at the same time. You'll see a lot of people, they will quote this one interview saying that Yuri on Ice has saved MAPPA. People will say that Yuri on Ice saved it from bankruptcy. I have yet to see anything indicating that. People just say that because the article they're quoting says that it got it recognition. And that's mainly because, yes, this film in this corner of the world gained them a lot of awards. They gained lots of success from it. And then, yes, Yuri on Ice over here. In the actual interview, Manabu Otsuka says that we are already conscious of getting into the race when we were making Terror and Resonance, Rage of Bahamut, Garo, all which aired in 2014. However, we had a complex because we didn't have the hits of our own and didn't know how to make them. After that, we continued to make films through various trial and error processes. And the first ones that bore fruit were Yuri on Ice, which was broadcast, and In This Corner of the World, which was screened in 2016. The success of those two titles, again, they like to quote this, but they don't mention the two titles, had such an impact that it would not be exaggerated to say that it changed the fate of MAPPA, and it clearly changed the way people saw us, especially with In This Corner of the World. We were able to achieve results, such as winning a domestic and international animation awards for the film. Frankly speaking, it was such a great achievement that it came too soon for the company, and we felt a lot of pressure to produce similar results. It was good that we were able to produce a hit film, but the amount of money coming into the studio from a simple production contract was very small. What I mean by less is that the studio's income was small in relation to the overall business scale of the productions. I felt that if we did not improve that situation, it would be impossible for us to survive and grow strongly as a company. So from 2016 onward, we aimed to maintain the environment where we could continue to produce animations while focusing on production conditions that would bring in more money for the studio. And around 2018, we started other businesses besides animation productions, such as rights and events. Now, this is where we get into my prediction here. What probably happened with Yuri on Ice? Right here, he's stating that this is the point in which things changed for us. We had these two massive hits, Yuri on Ice and In This Corner of the World. And In This Corner of the World was making so much money and we're getting all these awards. And I think it was the same for pretty much Yuri on Ice. They're just not mentioning it here. But the problem then comes, just like with all studios, this is not just like only for MAPPA. This is all studios. It's just that they like to verbalize this because they're trying to change things. And I know that's I hate that I have to always defend MAPPA, by the way. It's one of those things where people kind of like give it wrong anger, and it's like, but it's not necessarily warranted. It's warranted in some ways. But at this point, things change for MAPPA. They were like, this made so much money, but good on them. What about us? We barely made ends meet. We don't want that anymore. And this is something that they talked about extensively when it came to the whole situation with Chainsaw Man. They made Jujutsu Kaisen, and that was making, again, a lot of other people a lot of money, but they weren't making anything. That's why they made Chainsaw Man, and they wanted 100% ownership of that anime so they can make all that money to themselves. And yes, they said it was successful, just not to the numbers that JJK made. But the key thing here to remember is that when things happen with Yuri on Ice and In This Corner of the World, they focus themselves on having more ownership of the property so they can make more of the money of the thing they're animating. JJK sells a whole bunch. Again, they don't get much. They do Chainsaw Man. They want more ownership. They get that ownership. And that's been the focus of this company ever since then. So, my prediction, just based on my knowledge here, when you have this production committee back here, again, Avex Pictures, TV Asahi, yada, 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 they had the majority ownership of Yuri on Ice back when it was released, back when MAPPA made that, back when MAPPA was small, back when MAPPA didn't have much recognition. They didn't have the ability to push back when they say, hey, you can have 1%, or you can have this much money to make it, we get all the money for it. MAPPA's over here going, I want more scraps. And so, yes, my prediction is that there's a possibility that now that MAPPA has gotten so much bigger, they went back to that table. Hey, we announced this movie. We're starting production. We're going to start production on it, but we want a bigger piece of the pie. And all these other companies said, no, we've always had a bigger piece of the pie. We're not giving you anything additional. We're just going to give you this much money, and you're going to get your usual amount. And they're like, give us as much or it's not happening. And I bet that's probably what happened. MAPPA's like, we're making so much more money from this stuff right here. We have these basically, unlike back then, MAPPA's got all these big hitters up ahead of them. And yes, I'm sure Yuri on Ice would have made a fortune in theaters. It was hugely successful. But as much as this stuff that they're already working on, that they're going to get a bigger piece of that pie. That's the key thing there. Yes, it's greed. Unfortunately, that's business. Businesses are going to look at how much money am I going to make for this and how much money I'm going to make for this. It doesn't matter what the message is. It doesn't matter what people's love of the property is. I've come to accept that over the many years. I have dealt with way too many titles that I absolutely love, and I think they're absolutely phenomenal. But they never get sequels. Why? Probably because they didn't make much money, or their goal was not to adapt the whole thing. That's just unfortunately a thing in the anime industry. Yes, to have something announced but then not deliver it, that's a big thing. Which is, yes, like I said, making history. And it's kind of a shock to a lot of people, but it doesn't shock me because it's an original. It has no backing of properties. It's not like it's based on a manga or something like that that can have some sort of impact by not making the movie. It doesn't have a pre-established publishing company. It doesn't have all these things that typically you have with the stuff that's backing it for some certain gain. This is strictly the gain of the production committee. And then it comes down to, can they agree how much each party wants? And again, I think because MAPPA has gotten so much bigger and it's got all these properties ahead of it, it's already planning. Would it want that small piece that it probably is still was established back then that it was going to get? And they probably said, in my prediction again, they probably said, we want more money. The studio said, hey, production committee that's taking all the money, we want more of that pie. And they said, not going to happen. Make it or don't make it. And the MAPPA probably said, I guess we can't come to an agreement. That's possibly what happened. And that's the unfortunate thing. But again, I want to make it clear that's my prediction. It could have came down to Avex Pictures, TV Asahi, Dentsu, CIC, Cygames, whoever else was still involved with that project for this new film. They could have all said, it's just not going to make enough. We just don't care. It's not worth it. Or maybe MAPPA, because things have changed over the last, 5+ years, the cost of things could have changed. MAPPA could be needing more money to make the production happen, and they said, we need more money, and these companies are like, the cost of things are going up, we don't want to get involved anymore. We're done. Walk away. There's a lot of things that can happen here. But the key thing is to remember, this was a decision by the production committee, not MAPPA, the production committee. And I think a lot of people forget that. And that's the sad thing is that, like I said before, I hate defending MAPPA. I really don't like defending them. They're like many other studios that are very, very much about turning out things and pushing people and not paying much. But at the end of the day, they're just like every other studio. They're trying to get more of that pie. And again, like I've said before, that's a part of MAPPA that I celebrate. That's this one side of MAPPA that I actually think is a really good thing. It's a studio that is standing up and saying, we're fed up with being the company that gets paid, $4 million to produce this big, massive property that these other companies, production companies, are making a fortune by selling overseas. Again, it doesn't matter how many Blu-rays Yuri on Ice sold. It doesn't matter all this other stuff. The money isn't in that. It's in all these other things. And yes, with a theatrical release, it would be ticket sales, which ticket sales are massive compared to other things. But it's not massive enough for a lot of these people with small pieces of the pie. And that's probably where the disagreement came and probably why it eventually was scrapped. It is a good sign that the entire production committee either didn't see that there was going to be as much money from this, that they didn't want to bother with it, or that, yes, it was going to be too costly. That even with MAPPA not being in the picture, they might not want to get involved with it because it's going to cost too much money. Putting aside why it's not being done, it's a massive question mark for a lot of people. And I know because, again, this was something that was something that a lot of people were talking about. It made big news. And yes, technically Crunchyroll, in my opinion, I still hold the theory that Crunchyroll literally birthed the anime awards for this show. That's just some weird like conspiracy theory in my head. I really believe that like the anime awards were made for that. Crunchyroll was big on that property. I mean, they were doing these little panels, like some like ice rink behind them. The anime awards literally had everything was Yuri on Ice. Basically, people that weren't even watching anime is like, hey, come over here and vote. Like, it was getting tons of people to come in. And I think that Crunchyroll's seen that success. And it makes me kind of wonder why Crunchyroll wouldn't push this more to get a theatrical release of this. You would think with how much success it was for Crunchyroll and Sony that they may want to go to that production committee and say, hey, how can we be a part of this? That's the key thing there to remember. And that's like the hope, I guess, for people is there's a good chance that this is something that'll come back later. Later on, somebody's going to push this to happen, and it might happen. I highly doubt it, because in my opinion, I don't think it was as successful, money-wise, as a lot of people believe. Yes, Blu-ray sales are huge, but again, I point to the AGA statistics. As the anime industry is growing insanely, that little pie for Blu-ray sales is becoming smaller and smaller, all the way down to barely 1% of the anime industry. Now again, theatrical releases is a pretty big pie, and again, that could be successful for them, but it's not the case here. So it's unfortunate, but that is it. So I wanted to get on here and give some people some context because, as usual, I'm happy to defend MAPPA, what I don't want to do, but it seems that it's necessary. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed this news. If you did, make sure that like button down below. If you're sad about the news, you could still hit the like button. If you like the video, there you go. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button's got my content. I do news reviews, first impressions, top list. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you like this content and you want to support the channel more, I have a Patreon link, tips, links, super links, membership button down below. Greatly appreciate it, but it does. And y'all take care.